how to build engagement with your dog. So a couple of things that I see a lot of people doing in such ways that kind of negatively or potentially negatively impact their relationship with their dogs are things like just shoving a treat in front of the dog's face to take it, or just giving them a tiny treat, or giving them exactly the same treats, or not moving when they're giving the treats, or never integrating play when they're interacting with their dog. And they expect their dog to do a lot of things, or even just some things, but they themselves are just standing there emotionless with a really boring voice like, sit down, come. Like, why would your dog want to engage with you if you're being really boring? We all remember that one high school teacher or college teacher or whoever it was who had that super monotone voice and never inflected their tone, or I can't say the word, but they just had exactly the same voice and they never moved. They just stood there and talked like this, like they were a robot. And while they may have been giving very good, valuable information, they weren't integrating visuals, they weren't integrating gestures, they weren't integrating facial expressions, they weren't inflecting their tone, they weren't engaging the audience. So your dog is going to be very, very similar, if not more, because their first language is not verbal auditory communication. They do understand tones to a degree. They do understand more visuals and movements and spatial currency, if you will. They understand certain things, but not reason. They don't speak English or whatever language that you speak. If they understand a word, it is because of how the process that you've taken them through to teach them what that word means by using their language. So when it comes to engaging with your dog and building engagement, I encourage you to think about kind of the opposite of everything that everyone has ever told you. In that being, instead of saying, how do I get my dog to, change it to, how do I become more interesting to them or for them? So if we are being really boring and monotone and flat and not engaging, our dogs are not going to want to engage with us. If we are not reinforcing them in ways that they value, they're not going to want to engage with us. If we're doing anything in such a way that they see as just boring or insignificant, they're just not going to want to engage with us. And then you're going to get frustrated and it's not going to be beneficial for either of you. So a couple of just very quick key tips, which I'll probably get into a little more detail later on, are integrate movement into your reward. Teach your dog how to activate you. But when you are starting this process, start with your expectations very small, but very, very, very clear. What do I mean by that? An example of something that I will start with a lot of dogs is first I will have them in a non-distracting environment, maybe a backyard where they've already gone potty and already checked everything out and now they're kind of bored, or a closed room where there's not much going on, no distractions. And I basically just stand there, right? So this is pretty much the only time that you're just going to be standing there. And there's different ways you can do this, and you can flip it on occasion. But I will kind of stand there, maybe do slight movement a little bit to kind of catch their visual attention. And the moment they make eye contact or look at me, I mark it with a yip, and then I start backing up. And I'm showing them a reward as I'm backing up. And I'm moving, and I'm using a high-pitched voice. I'm going, whatever I need to do to get and keep their excitement and their interest in what the heck is that person doing and saying. I'm chasing them. This is fun. What's going on? And building in small little steps like this with a clear expectation of dog looks at me, I mark, I activate, I start moving, and then I give them a reward as they're following and chasing me. All these things start to show your dog that you are interesting. You're probably weird as heck, but dogs like weird. Realistically, a lot of people like weird too, to be honest. They like weird, they like movement, they like high-pitched noises for most dogs, for the most part. I'm sure there's exceptions, but they like those things, and so their interest is going to be piqued, and they're going to be following you very likely more often than not, because nothing around them is exciting, but you're doing something interesting, so they're going to follow that and check that out. So building with small little increments and doing lots and lots of repetitions of simple little behaviors like that, or simple little targets like that, can really build up to that big picture of whatever your specific expectations are. So the issue that I see with so many people is a very common example that I get is people say, hey, I want my dog to learn how to focus, heel, or, have that energy and focus on me. But they're attacking that problem, that issue of, oh, you're not doing what I expect, which is this huge, big, beautiful behavior, and I don't know what to do. So they're attacking this big issue, but it's like the thing on the top of the iceberg. There's a huge portion underneath that you have to build from the bottom up in order for your dog to understand what that final piece is at the top and what it is that they need to do to get that attention and energy and all that, and same vice versa. But realistically, it starts with you, and it starts from that foundation and building upwards. So instead of focusing on how do I make my dog X, Y, and Z, change it into how do I become that interesting, engaging thing so that we can get that nice engagement and synchronicity together and have a better relationship and get that energy and all these behaviors together. And if you start in that mindset and then slowly build from there, then you will be able to achieve what it is that you're looking for. But constantly, because we're always going to be focusing on the issue, the problem, instead, let's refocus on how can I do this other thing to build that nice, strong foundation for my dog? How can I become that person for my dog? And then watch and see the results of what will happen with your dog when you then become what it is that you're looking for in them. So this is just a general way that I like to start all of my training. I'm building from a relationship standpoint, a communication standpoint. I'm building in tiny little increments before I get to that tip of the iceberg. And it takes quite a while depending on the dog, but that's okay, because in the end, it is going to be worth it and it's going to be valuable for both of you.